Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the Lettermen Lounge. This is a Monday. It is Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint and a fun, casual conversation about Ohio State. The reigning Big Ten champions stay unbeaten in the league with a 59-31 blowout of Purdue on Saturday. We're going to talk about that and then what's coming on Saturday against Michigan State. Huge showdown in the Big Ten. That's Justin Zwick, Nicole, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham, and I am Austin Ward. And hard to find a lot to complain about from a 4-touchdown win, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, you can always dig in there and find some stuff.
Well, let's do it.
There's great to be able to find some things to learn about in a loss or learn about in a win as opposed to a loss.
A cover as well.
As well. I mean, you were right. There was a lot of offensive production. I did not anticipate that type of explosion. However, I wouldn't have anticipated them maybe throwing like Jack Plummer and him just fumbling the ball and then, muffing kickoff returns and stuff like that. Like Purdue didn't make it any easier on themselves knowing that they were going to be outmatched. And I give Ryan Day a lot of credit. They schemed this thing up. I mean, they had them ready to go. They did a good job, negating some of Purdue's defensive line strength, moving guys around, making sure they were, when they were stunting. The offensive line played better. CJ looked really good. I mean, you could argue maybe he even should have had a couple more completions, a couple of drops. And so they wanted him to defend really. I talked to Hartline a little bit about this, like defend the whole 53 yards of the field. You saw a lot of the bubble screens, you saw the jet stuff, and like, hey, when you're going to pack it inside, it's tougher to run. So you know what? We'll just keep working you outside, and it'll wear your defensive line down. It'll force guys to run out there and make plays. And so I saw that. That was good. Defensively, I think there's some things to clean up. I mean, he started off really strong. When I saw the first 3 and out, I'm like, this feels good. And then they boomerang it and take it in for a touchdown. I'm like, well, you're already up 1 because you're going to get the ball to start the second half. You forced a 3 and out, and you went down and scored on them. So now they're in chase mode the rest of the game. Because I was worried that they might be able to score, but didn't give up the big plays. They have about 100 yards, but it was like
on 11 catches.
Quiet-ish, 100 yards. I mean, it wasn't him catching 45-yard bombs over the top. They did a pretty good job. They let it bleed a little in the second half. But I always tell people that happens defensively because the coach is like, just don't give up the big play.
And they didn't blitz anymore.
No.
They were rushing 3. And they're like, okay, you're just going to march.
We'll let you score, but it'll take time.
Well, they didn't really care.
Purdue's the worst rushing team in the Big Ten, and Ohio State, even defensively, was trying to guard the whole 53 and just backing off. And Purdue running the ball better than they have all year long, still was only getting
they have Xander
4 yards to carry.
back, and I think he's healthy and looking a lot better.
They weren't, Ohio State was not going to be worried about them running the ball very often, so they didn't really try to even defend the middle in the running game. They were giving up 6-7 yards a pop to Purdue, which you don't want to do, but you knew they weren't going to continue it.
Exactly.
So.
They weren't patient enough to tell guys listen, if they want to be patient enough to rush for 250 yards and just 5 yards down the field all the way when you're scoring in 30 seconds, go ahead. They're not going to, especially when you're down,
4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns. That's not what Jeff Braun wants to do. He's a real smart coach and offensive coordinator, and those guys like to show off their prowess by being able to dial up those 4 receivers to a side and slipping guys through. They want to do more of that, not just lining up and running inside zone.
Right. They blinked and they were down 35-7. All of a sudden, the game plan changes probably a little.
For both teams, it did. Nicole, how did it look from row 1?
Yeah,
man,
so
good seats.
My
Those
pick,
blurred lines.
Yeah.
I just know. Let's save the Buckeye leaf for now. I just want to know what the experience was like.
Well, my pick was so great
you want
because
to
I was just so close.
We didn't have to bring it up.
Yeah, 21-12, guys.
So hard on herself.
I mean, I was like, this is terrible. But here's
so
my
you want
theory.
some group accountability for your pick.
So
that's like Ryan Day's bringing it. Now you want it too.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. I think that it actually worked out great because if I do a bad pick like that, it was a blowout. It was great.
The emotional hedge. You get
some reverse psychology.
I'm a reverse psychology major, and so I totally.
Oh, really? Where do you sign up for? I've never seen that in school. I know Urban was a psych major.
It's at Liars University.
Oh, it's at the anxiety school.
Oh, I should go there.
It's the anxiety school for complainers.
But Nicole, I mean, the weather wasn't great down there.
It wasn't, but I dressed warm. It was amazing, and I haven't been to a game in 3 years. So we've been fortunate enough. We have tickets through our partnership with Ohio State, and we usually give them to our team members to go. And because of the short staffing issues, a lot of our team hasn't been able to go this year. And it was nice for me to go and just check on all of our activation within the stadium. But it felt great.
I saw
to be
a picture of you ordering wings, and you tasted them, and these aren't hot enough, and you threw them back at the person's face.
I'd heard something about that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the
about
maize. Like,
that.
don't be serving our stuff like it's trash.
Yes. She's like,
what
Step
is,
your
what
game
is
up.
this?
That 100% sounds like
She said,
that's-
"There's
does.
already
Well-
a shortage, and we're serving trash." And threw it back.
Yeah, we're the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Got to
Step
bring
your
it.
game
You got to
up.
bring it every Saturday, just like the Bucks.
Did you
Oh.
get there early enough to see our wonderful SAG, award-winning commercial that Bob and I?
Oh yeah.
Was it good,
That was
guys?
so great.
I did
to
not
see it.
get to see it.
Every
and that's
week-
what I really wanted to see.
Every
So-
week, somebody takes a picture of me or Bob up there and sends it to me like I'm some sort of big deal now. I'm just
I
like,
love
Celebrity.
I'm just somebody who likes Roosters.
I love it. And
There's-
Austin, your tweet
Ohio-
yesterday, that meant so much to us. It just like made my day.
I had to
So
go
thank
check
you.
out a different
Influence in
location.
the Screen Actors Guild: Austin Ward and Richard Lewis. That's it.
Yeah, we're two celebrities and Bobby Carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, there's
And
five.
guys, there are no complaints
Phoebe.
though, even though it was cold. Just to be back in the stadium, because that was my first time, and
Yeah.
not having season last year, it was amazing. It was just It was.
Breathtaking.
I just can't. Yeah,
It
I
was.
just can't
It
even
was.
like.
It was.
Berm
explain
couldn't
it.
breathe on the field.
Yeah.
either.
It was
So-
extremely
Yeah,
cold.
Berm was bundled.
It was very
he was
cold.
bundled.
I don't mess around on these days. I know what's coming.
He said,
Oh, do you?
Better
gotta
to
keep-
be
I
A
gotta-
few weeks ago, I
gotta-
thought you got a little wet.
I got to keep my fingers, mobile.
just appreciates weather.
Appreciates what?
Just love weather.
Jay-Z, what were your initial takeaways on Saturday?
Well, I had to rewatch yesterday because went to a game. I didn't go, but I tailgated, and so you know how that is. So I caught the quick 60 on Sunday.
The crash course.
Yeah, the crash course, just to kind of refresh. But I took away from that was just everybody wants to get on them scoring 31 points or this. It's like we're up 35-7 with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. Like things change defensively. Let's not give up the big play. It's not against a team that I thought was going to score anyways, just because they've been rolling and the quarterback's been playing well. So the way that they were able to jump out, CJ looked, golly. I mean, in the pocket, he just looked like he was in command, stepping up, doing a great job of just giving himself a little bit of time, and it just seemed like he knew everywhere he wanted, like pre-snap reads. I don't know what, but he knew where he wanted to go with the ball, and it just seemed like he was in total command. And when that's happening, gosh dang, I mean, they're good. I mean, having Garrett Wilson back, I didn't think would be that big of a thing, just because that room is so loaded right when he was out.
Yeah.
But maybe having him in there is that much better.
Well, and Bob brought it up. I mean, I think, those jet sweeps and the pop passes to get them going and stretching the out of defense, making them defend 53 yards. Like, I don't know why that wasn't part of the playbook when the run game was struggling in the previous 2 weeks, but I mean,
well, Ryan came out and he said
that,
he kind of called a bad game against Nebraska. So they're learning. He's holding coaches accountable. We've heard a lot of that here coming through the weekend, and I think that's just part of the evolution of this team. The play calling and whatnot. So I think it was a huge win. A great you want to come out and play well in November, and I didn't even realize how bad it was until I saw you guys after the game with the wind.
Yeah,
when
Tim's
hat went off, I'm like, I didn't realize it was that windy. So that gives me even more appreciation for CJ and the way he was throwing the ball into that.
That was the same for me, Jay-Z, because it was really, really nice in the press box. Windows closed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the wind was whipping like that, and then it was that cold. So like the
flags are up on top of the stadium.
I can see them, but sometimes they get wrapped around the flagpole.
That's actually a sign of how windy it is.
Yes.
Is that
what that means?
That checks out. But
it
so,
was-
like
it was
the throw
not
that he
good.
made to Stroud that was negated by the Ruckert hold, like
A
the fact
lot.
that he could do that into the wind
I know.
was something else. Unfortunate. That
It was pretty ugly on the field. I mean, and I said this after the game, but it reminded me a lot of the Michigan game in 2018, where the Buckeyes won that one only by 23 points at 62-39. But everyone's like, "Oh, this is the greatest day in the history." This is a game Ohio State could have scored 80 points on Saturday if they wanted. And sure, they gave up 31, but who cares? There is a point in the game when, as a football player, as a defensive guy, Bob, you guys are up 35-7, you kind of take the foot off and you say, just nobody get hurt.
Well,
Nobody, and I think that there's actually a concern of that. I mean, you watch in the second half, the Buckeyes were certainly less physical. And I think it was just, hey, it's cold. Let's get out of here. We got two big ones coming.
And that's 100%. Like, let's survive in advance. You hear Ryan Day talk about it all the time. And so you're trying to ratchet up on like a 3rd and 6, but it's like, if they get this, they're still down 4 touchdowns and have 50 yards to go. Yeah. It's tough to replicate that sense of urgency. Like, hey, we have to get this stop to get the ball back to go score. It's just not real how that's going to operate and what you're going to see. I'm just happy this game was over with. If you looked at this, it's tough to say, is it a trap game? Is it not? I mean, you told Michigan State it was a trap game and they still fell into the trap anyway. And so Ohio State, that was maybe a little bit of the concern is, you've talked about it ad nauseum, but they can score the ball in a hurry. And so I was worried if it would have come out and maybe been flipped, where they score a little bit, you get into a chase game, and now you're not feeling quite as good. And not that the players weren't prepared for it, but you have this, then you have Michigan State, you have Thanksgiving, and then Michigan, which all those things are incredibly real. The fact that the players and coaches have to deal with that, and so do their families. You have Senior Day coming up, and like guys are having to make decisions. One of the other things we didn't touch on is guys are having to make decisions about, hey, am I a senior? Am I a senior this year? Am I going through the walk? Or, well, can I wait? Well, no, you've got to decide now. Do you want to come back and play again? Because we have to figure out what we're doing, and it's hard. It's a lot of stuff that's being thrown at these guys here. As you start turning the page after Halloween. And I thought they did a great job. And now it's like clearly you can see you win the next two, you're going to Indy.
Yeah.
All right. You'll go to Indy, you win that one. You're trying to get back to Indy again, trying to get the return trip. Like all that is now laid out. You've played the 10 games. You're sitting here. November's for contenders. Let's go.
That's the word.
Earl Bruce, we're ready to go. November is for chicken tenders. Let's get it done.
Actually,
at Roosters.
This particular November Tuesday is for
mini corn dogs.
Mini
corn dogs. If we have them.
They're back. They weren't even. This is something that wasn't here.
I don't remember
been a while.
ever having this on Lettermen Live.
Agreed.
Because they went away for a little while.
Ooh.
And thankful to our amazing guests who just really wanted them back. We got them
Hammered
back.
us.
Hold up. So
I
hold
loved
on.
it.
Uh-oh.
Who was I telling?
What do I have to do?
I know.
Was it a letter writing?
I can do
Once
that.
staffing gets better, chips can be considered again.
Okay,
They are
okay.
the chips. It's
What
hard to
if-
explain. Like in the kitchen,
Jay-Z will come in and make
they are
them.
cooked differently.
I got
They
spare
don't
time.
Go with the flow.
What if Justin
You want a
brings his
guarantee on a
own
box?
tortillas and just quarters them and fries them himself?
Yep, it wouldn't be the same as the Rooster chips.
Nope.
Just gotta-
Because
the key-
Tortilla chips.
Yeah, they're not
Norm.
tortillas. What is? Have you ever had them?
What in the
They're
world
kettle.
is wrong
They're
with
like
them?
a-
Did they get rid of them before you started
They're
I don't
cutting
live in your
here
kitchen.
to what?
I don't live in your kitchen.
This guy even
Tortilla
Roosters or
chips?
not?
God,
I eat wings when I'm here. I don't eat
Yes.
chips when I'm here. I eat
And I don't know
wings.
if
you're
we've ever
missing
had
out.
them on. We haven't had them on the show since Berm's been coming.
Yeah.
I don't
You
think.
must-
They've
you
been
must-
So
gone
why
a
don't you
while.
guys back off?
Why don't you just
Listen, you need to know the menu a little bit better.
Why don't you
You
just
need to
get
know
some-
the
They're
history.
not on the menu,
history of
Jay-Z.
the
I know.
history of Roosters
I know.
and the great things they have here.
We'll
He's
try
going to
get
start
Berm's
crying in the
chip.
show. And it's not even nuclear.
This time it's going to be real tears from my face.
Wow.
We are rolling, folks, on Lettermen Live, and they are $2 on Tuesday, if
They are.
available at your
Yes.
local Roosters.
Yes.
And we're going to give away our Buckeye leaves, and we are going to start with Nicole, as always. What do you got? You're writing in your
So-
notebook with your gloves on.
Yes, there were a few different guys I could have chosen, but I'm going to go back to my old faithful team of, I've already picked Chris Olave this year, but Garrett Wilson. He just had an unbelievable game. It was great to see him out there. 3 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushing, and did you guys say
Never
that
had happened in school history.
ever?
No.
That's unbelievable. So
It is.
it was great to see him. And like Justin said, the guys were looking good in those positions. So we didn't realize how much we missed him, I guess, but he just really put on a show. It was great.
absolutely
I'm
did.
the first receiver to go over 1,000 yards.
I think he knew that Nicole was there for the first time.
He must have. Yeah, he's put on the show in the first quarter.
Like, hey
or in the first half.
guys!
He's like,
Yes.
got my Buckeye leaf on Monday.
So,
Let's
and-
go.
So Jackson Smith and Jigba is over 1,000 yards receiving. Travion Henderson is over 1,000 yards rushing.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud has 3,000 yards passing and 30
That's right.
touchdowns. And there's still more. Like Chris Olave and Garrett.
Yeah,
Wilson,
they're both with
within
under
80.
300 yards of
Yeah.
getting to 1,000, which is incredible
It's
if you
truly-
sit back and think about it.
It's truly crazy what's going on.
It-
Not to steal your thunder.
Well, no, it is, and that just goes right to my Buckeye leaf. I got to give it to CJ. I just think he was in such command. 7 incompletions with you talked about a couple that could have been caught. That really we see Olave catch that ball in the end zone, even though it was it was behind him and
I think
whatever.
it had to be behind him, honestly. But
I think he threw it in the right spot. I think he had the right idea, and we usually see him make that catch. So there were some other opportunities there, but he was just in command. We talked about the wind. The guy is back in the picture for the Heisman. He's got to be up there.
he's the odds-on betting favorite now.
Is that right? So
It was crazy.
a great time to have a great game going into these last 2. Your confidence has got to be going high. We've done it in all sorts of weather. So anything that we come against here at the end of the year, I think we have that confidence. And somebody from the West Coast, having that confidence, and
I think he was challenged
I
by
think
one
so.
of the panelists. On
Played
think
well.
so.
He played really well. I'll be the first to say that was the best game. And I'm not going to sit. There wasn't opportunities where he needed to run, had to run. Like, if you don't have to do it and it's not there, don't do it. I'm not saying create problems that don't exist. I'm surprised that you didn't go with your guy. The guy who tries to claim his nickname is Pork Chop.
I should have.
It's really just
After what he's been through here in the middle of the season with whatever's been going on, he did have a heck of a game.
The meatball came in. I mean, they're actually getting under center, running some I formation. He's pounding them downhill. Like, that's the one thing that we're going to need. At some point in time, like maybe not against Purdue, maybe it's against Michigan State, maybe Michigan, Wisconsin, whoever's in the Big Ten championship, college football playoff. Those are the times where you're going to need a guy like him. Nice changeup. You get Travion out of there, get him in. Master Teague. He's got a little more wiggle than Master. Probably not the top end speed. Yeah, Master's he's a bludgeoned hammer, and he's got the top end. So if he hits it, it's gone. Yeah. But to see Mayan in there and getting his stuff done, and like you said, he's been out for a number of weeks, and so it was a welcome sight seeing him back on the field. And he was the leading rusher in the game, which is fantastic.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, everyone already knows
Cam Martinez.
I'm picking Bryson Shaw because I really think it's important that people step up when they don't play well. And he stepped up after the game and said, hey, this is on me. It was not Tim Tebow. He's not going to get a statue outside of the stadium or anything.
We will play as hard as we can for the rest of the season. And it was embarrassing. Right. I love this place.
He said, that's on me. It can't happen. And maybe it will happen again. I don't know. The kid obviously is trying to learn the position. I wrote about it on Sunday.
They don't have anyone else.
There's no one else to be back there.
So people can yell all they want. I saw Josh Proctor. His arm's still in a sling. He looks like a bird right now.
He played every single defensive snap, and a kid was not supposed to be playing this year in that type of role and that sort of minutes. And he's stepping up as much as he can. Are there some deficiencies? Yeah. I mean, but he's really good against the run. He plays really aggressive against the run. He's probably too aggressive against the pass, and that's why teams are beating him on the play action. But to me, it's about accountability. Ryan Day preached all last week and the last 2 weeks about the offensive line, saying we got to do better. We got to do better. And again, it's only at Ohio State where you win a game by that many points against a ranked team where you're even being asked about that in the post-game conference. Nowhere else in the country is someone going, hey, you guys just won this game by 30 points. What about that one play where you sucked? Like nowhere else in the country does that happen. And I just think that for young kids, and again, Bryson Shaw was a lacrosse player 2 years ago. It's not like he's a guy that was a 5-star football player recruit. He's needing to learn the position. I like to see kids step up, and he's obviously in a pretty uncomfortable spot.
I honestly think, though, I don't get upset when those things happen, especially it's nice to learn and a win because it's a learning opportunity. It's like he's not going to continue to make the same mistakes. He's a smart kid. He's a good athlete. He hasn't done it. And when you're playing free safety, like mistakes in the front end, those are first downs. Mistake in the back end, it's a touchdown. And so he's made some mistakes. But what I've seen and watched him, like, he cleans stuff up each and every week. And so there's ownership to it. There are people who make mistakes in life and in general, in football, sports, whatever, and they don't acknowledge that they've made that mistake because in their mind, they try to justify it and rationalize it in a million different ways how it wasn't their fault. And that didn't happen. Which
Bobby,
was very good.
Everything I was going to say.
Nicole was just waiting to tag in over there.
I so badly wanted to choose Bryson. I really did. Those stories, I mean, that is something that will be remembered. There, like Bobby was just saying, there are adults out there, people I work with, people everybody works with, that still to this day do not take responsibility. And his willingness to want to make himself better, I mean, I admire that so much. It was just a really neat story. And I'll forever remember him like that. The guy that kind of stood up and admitted to his faults and just wanting to be better. I just admire that in anybody who wants to try to improve themselves.
I just think he could have been very generic post-game and taken as a group, we got to do better. We got to do this better. He said, that's on me. That should never happen. It can't happen. It won't happen. And, I think that that's important when you're dealing with a young defense. There has to be guys that step up. And I know people hear it and think that we're making excuses, but this is a kid who should not be playing for Ohio State this year. He should not be in that position where he's required to play every single defensive snap. And I think that you just have to understand that there's going to be a learning curve, and Bryson Shaw and the entire rest of the secondary is in it right now.
Before we go on, there's one thing we didn't talk about. Nicole, we have a couple weeks left, 2 games left.
Yep.
We've got the Roosters Bowl giveaway.
What is that?
We do.
With
That's a great
2
question.
airline tickets,
please tell me.
deluxe hotel accommodations, and 2 game tickets to the bowl game. And now that bowl game is looking pretty good.
I know.
I'm
getting excited to kind of think, okay, because I kind of like to plan a little bit because it's during the holidays. And I tell
maybe
everyone.
Dallas, maybe Florida. There's a great
Either would be
opportunity for
great.
Either.
Either would be great.
So roosterswings.com. Go there. You can sign up. There's 2 games left because once it's done, the season's over. You can't register anymore.
Running out of
folks.
time.
Yeah.
You're running out of time. You're
I
running
know.
on empty. They're right there. We've had so many, 10 winners thus far. You've got 2 more left to pick.
9 winners this far.
9.
I picked the 10th today.
Pick the 10th. I'm sorry.
So it
No,
doesn't
it's
go. It
okay.
doesn't go to the Big Ten championship. It's done at the end of the regular season.
Yes,
Right.
12
Correct.
games.
Yep.
12
Yep.
games, 12 winners.
And if you
plus
had to,
one,
if
24
you had to
people.
prognosticate, it almost seems like right now it'd be Miami, right?
No.
You don't think they go to Dallas? You think? I think they'd be
they're
the
almost
fourth.
certainly going
I
to
think
Dallas.
they'd be the fourth.
No, they're not going to be 4th. They'll be
But
3rd.
right now they'd be 4.
No, that's,
Firm.
They'd be 4
Are
right
you-
now.
After they beat Michigan State and Michigan and then win the Big Ten, you think they're going to stay 4?
Hello, America.
Is this your first time watching college football?
I want to be very clear about something. When I say right now, I mean right now, not in 2 weeks.
They're probably going to move up to 3
Hey, Gary Barta.
tomorrow.
Listen,
Oh boy, I'm talking right now, today,
you and Gary Barta speak in the present. No, we're not allowed to prognosticate.
today.
If you guys could just keep me posted on where you.
We're going to
that'd
Miami.
be great.
We're going to Miami.
We're not.
No, that's
We're
a
going-
terrible
oh, that would be
Bob's
so
favorite
fun.
town, Big Bob.
You should just get tickets and everything today because Berm said we're going to Miami.
Actually,
so get all those tickets. You save a few bucks.
Non-refundable.
Yeah.
I highly advise not listening.
Big Bob, Big
because
Bob's
Ohio
favorite
State
town.
is
You're gonna-
almost certainly winning out and
You're
going
gonna
to
you're gonna
Dallas.
send all these winners to a game that Ohio State's not playing in.
Are you a salsa guy like Heartline was when he was in Miami?
I'm not for the salsa,
Tortilla chips and salsa.
but I
There's
do
something
like to
on
eat
Berm's mind
salsa.
today.
Yes.
Miami, South Beach.
How do you believe a salsa should be prepared?
Berm's a South
I
Beach
like
guy.
spicy.
But is it like chunky?
No.
Are you a chunky
I
salsa
like
guy?
it to be thick, but not overly chunky.
Yeah. See, I like it more of like a
Kind of frothy.
like a picante.
Not
you
something
know?
that's like
That
runny.
Really.
Mhm.
And I don't need it to be like a bowl of like diced tomatoes. I need it to have some nice consistency, thick, but not like overly chunky. It's like making mashed potatoes. It's a fine line. You don't
It
want
would
them
be a
runny.
fine
You don't
line,
want them.
yes.
You don't want them chunky.
I need in the comments today. I want everyone's preference for salsa.
I love salsa.
That's a very divisive
Salsa,
topic.
salsa,
That's a
salsa.
very bad idea.
Bring your hottest salsa takes. Because
I want
Spencer,
everyone in the comments
Spencer
to make
doesn't
a
want
list
you to do it.
Of all of
folks.
Berm's bad ideas from today. That will be an even longer list.
I'm not even close to done.
That's what I'm afraid of. I want to keep it going. Chris Booker, a walk-on, making
Yeah.
a key play on special teams, gets a Buckeye leave from me. But I know you don't care about that because you'd rather talk about salsa. So we'll just move on from that.
Good point.
Spencer, what's the line right now? 18.5. Ohio State over Michigan State. Nicole, what does that mean to you?
Let's just hope I pick better than I did last week. Because
You picked a win, and they won.
No more picks from me.
It worked out just fine for
It
Ohio
did.
State.
And then today I started to kind of overanalyze it, and I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm thinking 45-21.
45-21.
And it was done correctly.
She
45-21.
She likes constructive criticism.
She gets it.
I love it.
She gets it.
I
She wants
love
to be
it.
better. She's
Thrives on
she's
it.
one of those people that wants to be better. She holds herself accountable.
She does.
I
And
love
she's
it.
going to give away 2 more Roosters Bowl gifts. She's going to make sure that there are as many mini corn dogs as possible at Roosters for appetizer
Yes.
Tuesday tomorrow. And she's going to go about her day, and we're going to come back and talk a lot more about Ohio State and Michigan State when we come back on Lettermen Live, which is brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.
And now with some early bowl predictions, Bobby Carpenter.
Well, Austin, what I'm seeing here is 12 lucky Roosters guests are getting the opportunity to travel to this year's Buckeye Bowl game. Each trip comes complete with 2 tickets, airfare, and hotel. 1 prize winner will be chosen each week. Guessing to register weekly at roosterswings.com.
That's great, Bobby. What I was asking was your prediction for the Buckeyes this bowl season.
I have no idea. I'm going to Roosters right now to register.
Precision engineering, rigorous attention to detail. A Bryant Evolution heating system is so well designed, it's as much of a joy to install as it is to use.
Good to go.
For the dealer nearest you, visit Bryant.com.
All right, welcome back into Lettermen Live, breaking down Ohio State with another blowout win in the Big Ten, 59-31 over Purdue, getting ready for Michigan State. We got more questions than anything else about this defense. We touched on it early, Bob, that the game plan seemed to change as the game went on.
Things change, Mox.
Like,
you're the starting
starting
quarterback now.
Did you do you have concerns coming out of that? I think there are a lot
About
of ways.
the whipped cream bikini?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that wouldn't be a concern, but you can certainly think about it if you want.
Well, distractions for the players. We're trying to be sound body, sound mind of one linear focus
The
right
room
now.
temperature has to be very low to maintain that bikini.
I'm not sure that it did maintain. We didn't see it very long.
Yeah, you don't maintain it for long.
That's not really the
term.
point.
I don't know if you've ever seen one in person.
This seems like a reckless
but it
fashion
doesn't.
decision.
It doesn't last long,
Seems reckless.
And it's
That's
not
what I'm
meant to.
and it's not meant to.
You're supposed to enjoy the Sunday.
Exactly.
saying. I like.
How many times do you order ice cream and just, let it
stare
sit
at
there
it?
and let it melt?
That looks really good.
yeah,
but
I'm not going to touch it.
just going to take a picture of it.
No, let me. Yeah.
point is-
I bet it tastes.
Hey,
yummy.
guys, come look at this.
Yeah.
My point
Hey,
is,
everybody.
you have to
Hey,
move
everybody. I have a
quickly.
Sunday. I'm not eating it.
Is it Patrick Bateman? Don't just stare at it, eat it.
It's a Sunday.
Yeah. That's what I
Anyway.
do with Sundays.
Bob, the defense.
Nom, 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 nom,
Are you
nom.
concerned about it heading into Michigan State, knowing that Michigan State has a pretty good, wide receiver group, maybe not Ohio State level, but does it play into the Buckeyes' favor that Michigan State wants to run the
Is
ball?
Naylor healthy? Have you been over to East Lansing? We
I
know
haven't.
you live
I
in Michigan. I was wondering if you were.
I haven't, and Jalen's obviously a field stretcher, but I don't think he's a Jahan Dotson, David Bell type yet.
No, but I think when you pair him with Reed, then all of a sudden it's like now you have two good options. Because you're watching him against Purdue. I'm like, if he's out there, I think that might have made a difference. And they said that he's trying to get back this week. I mean, I don't know
wonder
what.
how. Like, he had a cast on his hand.
Well, it's a couple weeks. Just get a thinner cast. The stuff that guys do to play. I mean, it's like, hey, all right, we'll take this cast off. We'll put this little thin one on.
Or
But
recast
I think
after.
I would need more protection in the game. Yeah, but you can't play as well. This will give you like the bare minimum level. And so I don't know exactly. He's got pins in there. Like, what did they do? And then colleges, they don't disclose that. And frankly, you know what? They don't have to. So it doesn't really bother me. If he's back, a little bit of concern. I think our defensive line should be able to slow down this front. The linebackers are playing a lot better. You see those guys flying around making plays. Obviously Steele's playing really, really well. Chambers, Eichenberg's playing well. Cody's playing well. Those guys look really good with what they're doing. In the secondary, I think they just need to tighten that rotation up a little bit. Cam Brown looked really good. Denzel Burke looked really good. They got some stuff with the safeties that they need to clean up a little bit. But based upon what I've seen, there was nothing in there. I'm like, man, that's going to get them beat. They need to be able to get pressure. But I think not getting pressure was a little bit of a function of, hey, Purdue's getting the ball out really quick, and we're not going to try to go sell out to get pressure on you. We're going to just sit back here. If you want to throw the ball, dink and dunk down the field, take a couple shots. As long as it's not 50 yards, we'll be good. So watching it defensively, next 2 weeks. Next week, nothing of concern. I want to see that run defense get tightened up a little bit. That's what Michigan's going to want to do. How physical can you be with the front four and the linebackers behind? And that's something, frankly, I'm glad because Michigan to me is like a Georgia light, basically like what they are. They're a really good defensive team that runs the football with average. They might have better quarterback play than Georgia, but you don't really have to force them to see what they do in the passing game. So they don't have to. You never can get to that point. And so we'll see the next 2 weeks. But this week I think they're fine, and then I'm going to want to see that run defense step up against the other team from up north.
I think my concern would be the one thing that can get you beat against a team like Michigan State is not tackling.
Yeah.
And the Buckeyes, especially Marcus Williamson, really had a rough day on Saturday against Purdue, just missing stuff right on the edge that you got to clean up. But these teams are going to want to be multidimensional. That's how you beat Ohio State. You can't just beat the Buckeyes by running the ball. You're not going to beat them just by throwing, because you'll see what they did on Saturday. They'll let you throw for 400 yards.
Why don't you tell Jim Harbaugh that?
Well, you're not going to beat them by just doing one thing. I think most of us are in agreement here, but most of us don't have our pants on fire.
Most of us
but
don't
that's
have khakis on either.
That's the problem for Michigan when we're looking at the next 2 weeks. I think Michigan State is a much bigger challenge because they actually have some diversity to their offense. Michigan is so one-dimensional, you can take that away pretty easily, in my opinion, especially with Ohio State's personnel. And the question that kept being brought up was, is this going to come back and bite Ohio State, like the way they played defensively? And I don't see anything that carries over from it, because Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, potentially, any team that they play in the playoff, none of them can throw it like Purdue can.
Well, and none of them have the offensive creativity of Jeff Brom.
Oh,
if
for
Jeff
sure.
Brom was a coach that had better talent like that, then there might be some level of concern. But I'm not watching these other teams play and seeing them scheme up crazy. I would put like him in the category of like Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, some of these guys who maybe some of them are weird and a little quirky, but they're very skilled.
Your boy Josh Heupel.
Josh Heupel, same thing, but they're very skilled at calling games and drawing it up. And that guy doesn't exist on the current schedule of games that are set to be played.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 games we have, the best player on each team, we would say, is the running back, more than likely. You got Kenneth Walker, and then you have the Haskins out of Michigan.
Best player on Michigan is probably Hutchinson.
Fair, but I'm just offensively, since we're talking about the defense.
It is built about on the running.
So I think these last 2 games is a totally different look defensively than what we were going into Purdue, because we're worried about, hey, this kid was completing 74% of his passes the last 4 games. I don't think you have that worry with Michigan State. I know Thorne can get the ball down the field, but I think both the teams we will play here coming up want to establish the run, and they want to lean on those guys to try and move the ball, especially against a team like Ohio State, who they're going to want to bleed the clock.
But it's also a difference in the style of passing game. Thorne can get the ball down the field, but you have to have time to get the ball down the field. And I don't know that Ohio State would play the same sort of defensive front against Michigan.
Well, if it's 35-7 with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, they will.
Then you'll probably see some prevent. You'll see
you have to think about this.
Covering the flats instead of rushing the quarterback. Yeah. The stuff they were doing on Saturday just doesn't translate into the next 2 weeks.
Ohio State has the 107th ranked pass defense in the country. Michigan State has the 130th ranked pass defense in the country. Like, you're going to see teams that come out and try to throw the ball on Saturday, and I think Michigan State understands that you don't generally thrive by trying to beat Ohio State with a running game.
When do those yards come? What does the game look like? I think that's part of it. Like, when you're a good team and you're scoring a lot of points, like, you're going to give up passing yards.
Well, Purdue put up 560 passing yards against Michigan State.
Oh yeah, 100. That's what I'm saying. That was in critical game situations.
Cade McNamara threw for almost 400 against.
Yeah, and he's not a guy that's doing that. Like Purdue, and watching O'Connell throw for that, it's like, all right, it's end of game yardage. It's not a big deal. We're giving up some of this, anyway. And I guess I look at it as in a critical situation. Can you go out there and ask your guys to get stops? And for the most part, Cam Brown, Denzel Burke, like, they've stepped up. The defensive line's starting to get pressure, and I feel much better about that today than I did 7 or 8 weeks ago.
If someone calls a hold,
3 games in a row.
We know that's not going to happen.
I can't believe it. My bold prediction last week on the site was that the Big Ten officials would actually call a holding.
No,
I can't believe it. It's insane. Because they're still just ripping the jersey and refusing to call holds. Yeah. I'd never seen anything like it. I don't know what you can do.
All you can do is send in the videos of, hey, this is where they're holding our guys.
They have, and it's not changing anything. I don't get it. Bob's involved with talking to the officials. You
got a line into the Big Ten championship.
Those guys don't want to listen to me. They want nothing to hear what I have to say as far as officiating, because there's a whole boatload of issues that we could be tapping into, and I don't understand that. You're going to throw the ball 53 times and not get one holding call against the defensive line like that.
That has been killing it and getting to the quarterback.
Then they had the nerve to throw the one on Ruckert. Yeah. Purdue is just...
It's even worse, the fact, that you're going to throw one on Ohio State then, which I'm like, okay, I mean, it's not... I didn't think that was a crazy call, but it's like, if you're just going to not call them, don't call them on either team. Yeah. What are we talking about?
That was the unbelievable part. Who offensively...
Do you think they took the points?
I think they were watching weekend kickoff, and they're all those 4 Buckeyes said that this is going to be a cover for Purdue. We better get an eye on that. We don't want to make Bobby mad, because this week he doesn't think Ohio State can cover, which of course they did.
They did. Hadn't for 2 weeks though.
Yeah. I guess I want to go back to that with the defense. Felt to me like an overreaction to the situation. Because of the previous 2 weeks Ohio State had shown so much more improvement in games that are more valuable looking forward to me.
Because they're running teams, and those were critical moments. Like, you had to get stops. So, when you don't have to get a stop, it's tough to replicate, that same sense of urgency of, all right, it's 3rd and 7. They're on their 35-yard line. We're up by 5 touchdowns. Okay, let him catch it. We'll tackle him. Oh, he drug us across for, 9 yards. Line up and play again. Let's just make sure we're continuing to do that. We're not, hey, we're bringing pressure, locking them down and doing this or that and trying to get off the field. They are trying to, but they're not using all the tools available. And so the players feel that.
Well, in the first half, I thought they did a good job of that.
3 and out start the game.
3 and out start the game. Yeah, they go down and get one, but then you basically hold them. And your defense was on the field most of that second quarter because we scored so quickly. So it's I thought they did a great job in that first half. Now you go into halftime, you come back out, it's cold, it's this and that and the other, and you just want to keep people in front of you. But I think to set the tone, They let Purdue know what was going to happen right away, in my opinion.
I think there was also a realization with the personnel that Steel Chambers needed to be out there on every key snap. And in the first half, he was. He shortened that rotation, and they were rolling primarily with Steel Chambers and Cody Simon, and that was working. I think they're still doing maybe a little bit too much of that. You brought up the cornerback situation, Bob. Cam Brown and Denzel Burke are two of the highest graded cornerbacks in the country. You want them out as much as possible. I know that Ohio State wants to rotate. They want to play depth. They want to get reps for everybody. When you get to this point of the season, when November is for contenders, you have to have your best players on the field. I feel strongly, and
you got 10 games to play the depth game. Now it's crunch time. Play the best players, and that's it until they can't.
And part of it too early in the season, like you're dealing with elements, you're dealing with heat. It's cold now. Like it's a lot easier to go out there and play 80% of the snaps, 90% of the snaps. You want to spell these guys a little bit, but it's a lot easier to handle that workload when it's not 90 degrees outside on the turf and it's just bearing down on you.
What will the emotions be like for these Buckeyes on Senior Day? I know it's a tough balance when you have it not being the last week of the regular season. You've got the game following Thanksgiving and then the Big Ten Championship game, so they'll probably want to be focused on something other than the fact it's the last time in the Horseshoe.
So Justin, he was fortunate. He got his last game, Tunnel of Pride, Michigan, which is unbelievable, awesome experience. Mine was not the final game of the season. We played Michigan up there. I believe it was Northwestern. Was that our final game at home that year? That or Illinois. They were back to back, I want to say. But I remember the day vividly. As far as you're walking down the ramp and you're sitting there in the locker room and you're like, this is the last pregame, like the last of everything that you're going to do at Ohio State. And that's an emotional moment, especially for guys who have made it this long, who decided to come here and stay here. Like Chris Olave, you look at the journey he's been on throughout his career, and a lot of people thought he might not be here for this. And he is. And it's a pretty great time. It's a pretty sweet experience. Thayer Mumford, these guys stay, and they're making this decision to go out there and do it. And it's something that, you've got to stay, you have to, or graduate and choose this. And some guys leave early and they don't get it. And I think that's probably, it's the only time where they individually acknowledge you at Ohio State, as far as you get 5 seconds where they call your name, you run out and everybody cheers. Not a play that you made, nothing else. They call your name, and whether you started 40 games in your career, or you're the dude from Kansas who had never played an offensive snap who catches a 2-point conversion in overtime to beat Texas. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody gets a standing ovation, and that's awesome. Like, it's great to see it for your teammates. It's great to be a part of it. Your parents are out there. Your parents are all emotional. They know they've been through the journey with you, and you have no idea what's next, but you've got to go play a football game. And it's easier when you're playing a team like Northwestern Illinois that you should win, because there's part of it where you come out, and I always worry about this, especially when you start an offense. Like, defense, you can kind of be a little bit more aggressive, and like you can move around. Like, offensively, there's more timing and stuff involved. When you get guys that are really amped up, like, you get to see some procedure stuff. Like, guys the timing might not necessarily be that you drop a ball, like. Things like
that. Guys
are
moving upfield a little quicker. The quarterback's getting the ball a little faster. I mean, it definitely happens.
You're just amplified.
I was wondering if it was going to be the other way, like guys who are emotional and like kind of feeling.
You're getting a little emotional.
Sad-ish.
I don't think you're sad. Here's the thing: emotion is a powerful beast. Whether it's like, sadness, anger, happy, all those things. Like, when you start eliciting those hormones within your body, like, you are more amplified. And it makes it tough to kind of bring it in, focus up, and you have a big time game. And even though it's not Michigan, it's tough because you have Thanksgiving and everything and all this stuff, and it's Michigan State, and it's a top 10 matchup. Game day is going to be there. Like, it's going to be a sweet deal.
It also throws off timing of everything you've done all year long.
Absolutely. Coaches hate that stuff.
The entire routine of game day is now thrown and sped up 20 minutes because you got to do this before game. So,
like, even a couple years ago when they just said, hey, the loudspeaker doesn't work, and guys are just running out. Like, it was the most depressing thing.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. It was 2019, the last one they had. Yeah, with actual fans.
That's tough.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, we're just going to
they're just going out.
Run out, like, you go. Like, so everything that I said, discount that the one time in your career, because that didn't happen.
Man,
for those guys.
That's tough. It's
and then the speaker magically worked like 3 minutes later.
For kickoff.
Weird how that works.
It is. It's a fun day. I mean, it is what it is. You got to go out and play a game, but family's there. You might have some more people in town. Everybody's on the field. You get to see them before the game, so it's a fun thing. they know it's been coming. When you come back and you're a senior, you just know this is part of the deal. And it's one of those, it can be a sad day. Maybe doing, the last senior tackle in the Woody Hayes. That's the night before, Thursday at the end of practice. We used to do anyways, where somebody would get up and talk, about you, a younger player who maybe you, helped out or took under your
wing. They did
wing.
at the stadium our senior year, and it was freezing.
I don't remember that.
I remember how cold I was sitting there.
Well, I'm sure.
This is brutal.
I just remember having to do Krenzel's when I was a young guy and he was going out, and it's a cool little thing because you get these younger guys and they get to say how they feel about you or maybe what you've done to help them, and that's part of it as well. And so it's just a fun week, and it's got to end with a win because you don't want to lose on senior day.
Are you surprised I didn't cut the loudspeaker when you came down the tunnel?
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Terrible.
I was a little surprised. Thought they might have just left me off the list. You just go to the sideline with the guys.
Cross him off the list.
After not being allowed to talk all season.
Yeah.
Berm, you're already crying. Who are you going to
I'm
be?
just so emotional thinking about.
Who are you going to be sad to see get their last call out there in the Horseshoe?
I think Thayer Munford's one of those great stories that Bob alluded to him already. But you're talking about a kid that really a week before signing day, when he was finishing up high school, wasn't thinking about coming to Ohio State and gets an offer from the Buckeyes late, and then You don't know what these years take, and I mean it was 2019 or 2018 when all of a sudden you realize this kid actually might be able to play. He comes in a weird spot in the Rose Bowl, and you're like, why is he playing? And then all of a sudden he's a leader on the team. But it's not even just that. Like, you've watched Thayer over the last couple of years. I know you're close with him. Mm-hmm. Watch him just mature into the person he is. I think it's just really cool to see. And there are other players like that, obviously, the Jaron Cages of the world, who Jaron, I think we're thinking he might come back for next year.
I think he's going to be back. Yeah.
So you won't.
All he does is recover fumbles.
That's pretty good at it.
Yep.
It's a good skill to have.
I was like,
it is.
He's got another one. You know how hard that is?
But then obviously Haskell Garrett's the other one. I mean, Haskell's been through more than most people can.
Shot in the face.
I mean, that would qualify as more than most people get to go through. And
how many people
get to go through?
How many people you think in this world have been shot in the face and are still
and then became an
still
All-American?
I'm not even talking All-American. Just
played a football
vertical.
game like 3 weeks ago.
Clearly, that's going to be an interesting. It's a interesting side story. But there's a lot of kids on this team. Marcus Williamson, as a local kid who wanted to play more over his career and has been through a lot. But I just like to watch them. I think it's one of the cool moments in sports when you get to see that happen.
Well, especially now with the portal being available, and this, to me, it'll only make it more special. The guys who choose to stay 4 years.
Those who stay
will be champions.
They've been champions a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's there's truth to that. And so it's decisions that you make, and hope sometimes it's based upon just a belief that you'll get an opportunity at some point, and there's no guarantee of that ever happening. So there's a lot to it, and this is going to be something that you see these guys come through. They chose to stay here. They chose not to leave, and this is your reward, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yep. Those who stay will be champions is actually Michigan.
Even
play like a champion today is Notre Dame.
Whatever.
You got your references mixed up.
And
those who stay will play like a champion.
And it actually doesn't really apply to
either of those, but Ohio State should take over both.
It's like you just laugh at it.
Wow, you're just gonna.
It's for an easier punchline.
Take their culture.
Well, it never says.
But their culture is not producing championships. How can you even say it?
There is no disclaimer there is no disclaimer at the bottom of that says those who stay will be champions in this amount of time. Okay,
of life.
Yeah, it's of life. Yes,
in an indeterminate amount of time, and we haven't disclosed what the potential arena or any of that stuff could be. So there's a lot of opportunities for that still to happen.
Your favorite program, Tennessee, did a great job spinning that to champions of life and not really worrying about winning trophies or divisions or getting to the playoff, and that didn't really play that well at the fan base, but at least it was more accurate.
But you know what? They're trying to win at life. And that's where we're developing our young people. You'll be most especially proud of our young men.
Oh, yeah.
312.
I'll give it to him, Jimmy T.
Whatever days it was.
319
days.
Berm has that above his bed.
It's 12 days from now, right? Get ready for that one. It's looming. Berm's got the waterworks ready for that emotional experience as well. First is Michigan State.
In his backyard.
That's right. We'll be picking him up once we cross the state border next week.
That's a nice, quick drive.
But before we get to that, Ohio State has to play Michigan State. Huge one on Saturday in the Horseshoe at Senior Day. Buckeyes are favored. to win yet another one. We'll have full coverage of that as we always do all week at Lettermen Row. We appreciate Roosters for having us in to the Lettermen Lounge, Nicole Cox for hosting us as always. That's Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next Monday.